So here's another OpenToonz tutorial. This time I'll be covering importing the Xsheet and exporting. Thank you William Andrew Loomis for pointing out how to do that in the comments of my last video. Also, please note that I'm only covering import of digital files. So first, real quick, let me show you something that I missed in the last tutorial. So now we have the playback bar here at the bottom. So to get that, you have to right click on the workspace, go to GUI show hide and click console. So that way you don't have to make a shortcut for play. You can also get the tool options bar from there. So right click on the workspace, GUI show hide and tool options bar. Like this, it will be on the side instead of being in the middle, because for some reason you can't move the box if you choose it from Windows. Now if you select the pencil tool, you also have sliders for the size instead of just values. Also, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go to my last tutorial. There's going to be a link at the end of this video as well as in the description. So now I'm going to be showing you guys how to import frames that you've done in a different program, as well as sound and backgrounds. We're going to be using the Xsheet and the browser tab. So from browser you can add files into your scene. You can also drag them into the program, but I'm going to be using the browser. So here I have frames for an animation that I've done in TV Paint, and I want to import the frames into Toonz. So to do that, I first have to prep the frames, and I'm gonna show you quickly why I have to do that. So now, if I haven't done that and I try to drag the frames into the program, you can see that it makes new levels out of each of the frames, and that's because if you don't name the frames in a specific way, the program is going to be reading them as the first frame of different levels as opposed to different frames of the same level. So now I'm going to show you what you have to do for Toonz to read the frames in the right way. So you don't have to rename the frames separately. The program can do that for you. What you need to do is go to browser and there search for the file or the frames that you're going to import. Right click on the first frame and from the drop down menu choose rename. So that's going to give you a window that shows you're going to be creating a level of that many frames, and just check that everything is correct and click rename again. Also make sure that your frame numbers don't start from 0. If they do, the program is going to have trouble renaming them, and if you try to access them again, the program is going to crash. So now we're going to import the renamed frames into the program. So again, in browser, go into the folder where you store the frames. So now it only displays one level as opposed to all of the frames. Keep in mind that if you don't choose the delete original files option when you rename the frames, the program is going to display the old files as well. So don't be confused if your folder doesn't look like mine. I made backups of the old files and deleted them so the folder doesn't look so messy. So now to import the animation, right click on the file and from the drop down menu choose load. So now if you go into the Xsheet, you can see that you have all the frames on the same level. If you want to view your animation in the Xsheet tab, go to Windows and from there choose the combo viewer and just put it aside and resize it the way you want it to be. So now we're just going back to the browser to get the rest of the files. So you can choose all of them by holding down Shift and clicking the first and the last file that you want to select, and then right click again and press load. So now if we go back to the Xsheet, we have all the files here. You can use the pegs at the sides of the levels to move them around, and you can use the pegs at the bottom of the frames to make their exposure time longer. So just select the frame and drag the peg downwards. You can also move around the sound. One thing you need to remember about Toonz and sound is that you can't import MP3. At the moment it only accepts WAV files. So now as you can see, the size of the imported files doesn't match up. So what we can do is go to render, and from there we go to output settings, and there we get the camera settings. Camera is the red box on the workspace. So what we do now, on the Xsheet we click on the level that we want to fill up the whole camera and click use current level settings and click away. So now the camera has changed size. So now, to make sure that the animation matches the rest of the files, right click on the animation level, and from the drop down menu go to level settings, and in there select use camera DPI and click away. So now you can see that we still can see the animation, and I'm going to show you why that is. So if I click on the pink bars on the columns to hide the files on the workspace and play the animation again, we can see that it's now visible, and that's because the level on column 1 is the bottommost level. And to move columns, click on the left side of the column that you want to move and drag it into the direction where you want to put it, and the other columns adjust. So now that the animation level is on the top, we can see that the ground is too high up. So we're gonna select the ground level and go to the toolbar and get the selection tool, and we're gonna use that to select the ground and make it smaller, and then we're gonna play the animation to see if it lines up. Make sure that you click back onto the Xsheet before you play the animation. If the ground is still too high up but you don't want to make it any smaller, you can use Ctrl A and use the selection tool to move the file. If it's too much, you can use the Ctrl Z shortcut to go back and try again. And now that we're happy with how the animation and the ground line up, you can probably see that the animation looks a bit fast, and that's because I made it on 2s, but right now it's on 1s. So we could make each individual frame longer, but there's a faster way to do that, which we can do by selecting all the frames, right clicking on the Xsheet and going to the frame and selecting 2s. So now the animation is on 2s and it looks right, but now the other levels aren't exposed long enough, so we're gonna fix that by just again selecting the level and from the peg dragging downwards on the Xsheet. And now everything should line up. So next we're going to be matching the sound to the animation. For some reason people seem to be having trouble trying to play back the audio as they're trying to play back the animation, which is the case for me as well. But in this case I don't need that since I know where to put the audio. But if someone knows any fix for that, please let me know in the comments. So just decide where you want to put the sound, and from the peg on the left side of the file just pull it down and it should move. So now you're ready for rendering. First go to the output settings and there just choose whichever settings you like. I'm not going to talk about them now. Just make sure that from the file settings you choose AVI if you want to export video, and once you're done with that just make any last minute adjustments that you want to make. You can also select multiple levels at once if you don't want to add the exposure to each one of them individually. Just use Shift and click on the last and the first level that you want to select and just add exposure as usual. So when you're done with that, just go to render and click render. It should render the animation and you're done. So if you want to try this yourself, there's a link in the description to a Google folder containing all the files used in this tutorial. And also if you don't go to the English speaking forums, there is a new version of OpenToonz available, only for Windows I'm afraid. But in any case, there's a link for that in the description as well. If you want to see more tutorials, feel free to subscribe, or if you want to check out my animations, you can do that as well. The next tutorial won't be out until sometime in April. I have a lot of deadlines to catch up on, and making one of these tutorials takes up an entire day of working, if not more. But if you have any questions, I can do my best to answer them. Just leave a comment below. and if you have any suggestions for tutorials, just leave a comment down below as well. And thank you for watching.